Let's please welcome Tara Rose. She's going to be speaking on cleansing the ego with entheogens, Kambo, Cannabis, and Ayahuasca.
Humanity has an ego imbalance. At its most extreme, the ego convinces us that we are separate from everybody else and everything else, and that nature is an object to be used like a tool. Ego is resistance to something greater. Ego is resistance to the benevolent, creative force that pervades all things. Ego is separation consciousness. Ego, as we know, is useful for our concept of self and for being a human walking around. It's not bad in and of itself. It's bad if it's imbalanced. It's problematic, I should say, if it is imbalanced. And when we have an imbalanced ego, some symptoms that we experience are attachment, a need to control, an inability to trust life. We experience ourselves judging and blaming. We feel like victims. We experience hopelessness. This is imbalanced ego. And as within, so without. Humanity has an ego imbalance, and that's why we have an ecological crisis on the planet at this time. That's why we have the orange one in chief. He's a manifestation of the ego, of humanity's collective ego. And so that means, though, that as we cleanse the ego, as we remove the imbalances of ego, we will shift. The whole world will shift. And we have all that we need to create a better world. We have all of the tools, all of the technologies we need to live in a sustainable way. And we have all of the tools and technology we need to transform our internal experience. We have all of the technologies we need to cleanse the ego. And because this ego imbalance of humanity is so impactful on the rest of the planet, we really are not alone in our desire to heal. We really are not alone in our desire to heal the planet. The earth is sending her medicines to us. The earth's medicines are calling to us, and these are the entheogens. These are the plant medicines. These are the animal medicines. They are coming, they are calling for us because they have the power to transform our consciousness. They have the power to balance the ego. They have the power to help us connect with that creative, benevolent force that guides all things, that pervades all things. And in this talk, I want to share with you how we can work with three very, very powerful medicines in particular, who are, in my personal experience, experts at helping humanity clear the ego, clear imbalances of the ego. And these three medicines I'm going to be speaking about today are Kambo, Ayahuasca, and Cannabis. And let me begin by talking about Ayahuasca, because Ayahuasca, I think, is the most well-known of ego destroyers. Ayahuasca really is a guru teacher, more than anything. She is omnipotent. She is omniscient. She desires for us to become our best selves. She loves humanity, actually. And as a plant spirit, she wants to see us grow and evolve into our greatest capacity. And she believes that we're capable of so much more, and that is why when you go to sit with ayahuasca, she confronts you with all of your shadows and with all of the things that you don't want to see and all of the hardest things that you have to face. And it's why, as well, she asks us to die, egoically speaking. I had a really powerful experience, and that's putting it mildly, with ayahuasca. And I am different from some of the other speakers in that I'm not coming from the daime perspective. I'm coming from the perspective of having sat with some really fantastic Shipibo trained shamans. Really amazing people who are dedicated and who are essentially yogis. Their whole lives are dedicated to the plants. And I do believe that the experience we have with these medicines is very much dependent upon the consciousness level of the people that we have the experience with. So I'm coming from this perspective. I'm very lucky. And so I experienced in this one especially impactful ayahuasca experience that my first night with her, she showed me my ego. I had a hard time surrendering and allowing this medicine to come in. And I spent the whole night in an internal battle of resistance, wanting to surrender and unable to surrender, thinking, frustrated with the facilitators because they were taken under with the medicine and they couldn't sing because they were having such a hard ride. And I was feeling frustrated. And I wanted to do something, but there wasn't anything I could do. And I was experiencing empathically the feeling of anxiety as I could hear and see the people all around me struggling and suffering and experiencing pain and crying and throwing up. And I wanted in some way to change the experience. And so finally, I realized what I needed to do was ask, how could I serve? And so I asked the plant, how can I serve? What can I do? Finally, I cared more about the people around me than my own experience of being frustrated and annoyed that there weren't songs, annoyed that I wasn't having visions. And the plant shot light through me like a fire hose. And I lit up. And then the songs began, and the whole ceremony lifted. It was really amazing. And then the next night, I had this experience of completely choosing to be of service, choosing to care about how I was impacting everyone around me, choosing actively to be a conduit for good. And in that experience, I breathed into my heart, and I began to realize that the facilitators of the ceremony were speaking to me telepathically. They were saying, go back and breathe in your heart. You're thinking too much. You're too loud. You can't hear everybody. And so I was like, what? And so I went and I listened to what they said, and I returned to the breath. And then I realized they really can hear me. So I said in my head, please come over. And they did. They came over to me physically. And they took my hands, and all of a sudden I entered into a bliss state. And I experienced interconnectedness with the web of light. And I realized, whoa, this is what happens if I'm not in my ego. Wow, what potential. After that ceremony, I came away with 3 messages from the plant. The messages were, love everybody, forgive everybody, and don't complain. Love everybody, forgive everybody, and don't complain. And I understood that these were instructions for how to cleanse the ego. I had work to do. It's not enough to have a powerful experience in ceremony, of course. We then have work to do. We have to follow the instructions of our guru teachers, these plants, these amazing medicines. And so I immediately got to work with that. And I realized if I want to love everybody, really what I need to do is love all parts of myself. Because everyone I experience as a reflection of myself. If I want to forgive everybody, not only do I need to forgive myself for anything, but I also need to release all of the pain, the emotional pain that I've been holding on to from any past experiences that were hurting me still. Because as long as we are suffering, we're angry about it. And I realized that forgiveness is really a side effect of releasing all of our pain, of processing, experiencing, and witnessing our pain. And then don't complain. That's actually the hardest. That's actually the hardest, because that's what the ego wants to do. The ego wants to say, things should be different than they are. I want to fix it. Don't complain means radical acceptance. It reminds me of a friend of mine. He goes to an ashram in India, and he tells me that in the ashram, no matter what happens to you, you could show up and have had something very tragic just happen. They'll congratulate you. Oh, congratulations, that's wonderful. Because everything is material for awakening. Everything is useful. Everything is as it needs to be. So, I came away from the ceremony, and I worked with intuitive healers very intensively, and I am one myself, and I'd already been on this path, but I worked even more intensively, because I thought, wow, I could be telepathic, I could experience bliss, and more important than anything, I could make a positive impact on everyone around me if I can get out of my ego. And so I worked very hard on healing. As it happened, about 6 months later, I came to a point in my life where it was clear that the work I was doing was not sustainable for me. And I was self-employed. I was teaching herbalism, and I was training intuitive healers. And so I had to stop working, and inside of myself, I began to feel a call. I began to have an inner knowing arising that I was being asked to release everything that did not serve me and embody my higher self, become more of a conduit, just as I had in that ayahuasca ceremony, embody more light, release what no longer serves, become a vessel. And so I thought about it, and I realized what I need to do is create bandwidth. I need to release on the physical, emotional, mental, and energetic levels so that I can become a better conduit for spirit. Because I really care, like everyone in this room does, like every person I think that touches an entheogen does, that the earth is out of balance. And I believe we need divine intervention. I believe that no one idea is going to save the world. It needs divine intervention. We need miracles. We need to change. And if any one of us can become a greater conduit, then that is an important impact. That's what we need. And so I listened to this call. And I quit my job, which means I quit working for myself. And I thought, what am I going to do now? How am I going to pay rent? How am I going to get food? What am I going to do? And inside, the inner knowing said nothing. Non-action, stillness. I said, okay, all right. And a month went by. It began to be very scary. Okay, I've decluttered my apartment. I'm on a really strict diet, high vibrational diet, pure foods. Nothing is showing up. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And a colleague of mine, another intuitive healer, she said, you should try this frog medicine. It's a very powerful detoxifier. And it's called Kambo. I said, well, I don't know. Tell me about what Kambo is. And she said, well, you're going to fast for 12 hours overnight, and then I'm going to come over, and you're going to drink 3 liters of water, and then I'm going to burn the top layer of your skin with a stick, and then I'm going to apply this resin, which is scraped from the skin of a frog in the Amazon rainforest. And I'm going to apply it to your skin, and it's going to make you throw up, and it's a really powerful cleanse. I said, I'm not in pain, actually. I've never thrown up, I don't want to do it. And then, it's interesting, I couldn't look anywhere without seeing a frog. It became very clear. I would go for a nature walk, and all I could hear was frogs. I'd open a newspaper, full page, frog. I was being called. That's what I understood. The medicines come to us. They call us. And so I said, okay, Heather, yes, I'll do it. So she came over, and she burned me, and she put the frog medicine on my arm, and my heart began to race really fast. My face swelled up, my hands swelled up, my feet swelled up, my throat swelled up. I was scared I was not going to be able to breathe. It was really intense and overwhelming. And then I couldn't even throw up. I was so freaked out. I couldn't surrender to it. At the end of that experience, she said, I'm going to come back tomorrow and the next day. I need you to do 3 of these. Yeah, and that was an hour long. And I said, okay. So she came back, and the next day, she taught me how to work with it. She said, breathe in and feel the energy blocks in your body, and then release out. And as I did that, I threw up. And I threw up the water. I threw up the energy blocks in the water. And the water came out different colors. And each color corresponds to an organ, which corresponds to a very dense concentration of emotional energy. And what I cleared was grief. And after those ceremonies, I felt so much better. I could trust my path again. I felt lighter. I realized, oh, I can do this. Okay, yeah, I'm being called. I just have to wait. I have to be still. I meditated 3-4 hours a day, every day. I trusted. I was on it. About 3 weeks later, nope, back. Start spiraling. Oh my God, I'm lost. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. This is crazy. I need to get a job. Inner knowings, nope, stay. I went through this process over a year and a half, 33 times. I kept getting called. And each time, I didn't want to do it. Each time I sat there and I'd say, Heather, talk me into it. I don't want to do this. And she'd say, you're being called. I'd go, okay, I'm going to do it. Because the thing is, when you start out, if you make a vow, as I have, if you decide, okay, I want to be a conduit, I want to be medicine, you can't go back. You can't go back. There's no plan B. And this went on. I sat there with this intense triggering. This, let me show you. Okay, this stick of Palo Santo is me, and this lighter is the universe. This is what happened. Burned me, purified me. One of my teachers calls it being roasted in the fires of love, purification. I was being asked to sit still and be triggered in every single way that I could be. Because there's nothing scarier for an ego than being vulnerable. There's nothing scarier for an ego than being out of control, than not being able to plan, than not being able to take an action to ensure your survival. I couldn't do that. I was being told clearly. I got evicted, and I had to sell all of my possessions, everything I owned, everything, except my bed, in order to even just get the money to move in with the only person who would take in somebody like me, my Kambo practitioner. Yeah. So I moved in with my Kambo practitioner. And then I got even more triggered. Turned out we were going to be triggering each other. That was part of our role with each other. And so we just triggered each other over and over and over. And I hit 22 Kambo treatments. And I hit eventually an inner knowing of, no, you only need 33. Only. So I got to 33. After the 33rd, I thought, oh, finally done. And then I started to see frogs again. I thought, no. And I started to realize that I was being triggered. A layer of anger was being triggered. I thought, okay. And I sat with her. I said, Heather, I guess I'm being called again. But I drank the water, and as I drank the water, I said, I don't have the resolve within me to handle more pain. And she said, I said, do you think maybe we can do this medicine without the medicine? Do you think the medicine songs that you sing, the vibrational medicine and the connection to the frogs could be enough? And she said yes. And she sang the songs, I drank the water, and I threw up colors. It worked. It was really amazing. And my point in sharing this is that Kambo cleared out enough density, enough of the emotional body, that I was able to have more of a connection to spirit. It cleared the ego. The ego is made of pain. The ego is made of emotional density. That's what I began to realize. And as I was going through this process with the Kambo, I began to have prophetic dreams. My psychic abilities increased. And this is not because of anything to do with me. This is because it's a natural side effect of clearing the ego. We're all connected. Our ability to sense into our natural connection, to receive guidance, to receive those powerful medicine dreams, to connect with something greater than ourselves is blocked only by the ego. And it's not our fault, it's pain. It's made up of trauma. That's what I realized. That's what Kambo is so powerful at doing. Clearing the emotional body on a level that not even shamanic healing can do, in my experience. The third medicine I want to share about is cannabis. Cannabis is the most misunderstood. Unfortunately, cannabis is hardly even considered an entheogen. And I'm not allowed to talk about it at a metaphysical store because it's considered a drug. It's kind of, it wasn't even taught in any of the herbal medicine schools I went to. It's like the outcast of all of the plants. Nobody understands this plant, and it's so sad. Cannabis is a plant that elevates our vibrational state and helps us to understand ourselves. It's an amplifier of the shadow. And in order to love everybody, we have to love ourselves. And in order to love ourselves, we have to know ourselves. In order to heal ourselves, we have to know what needs healing. This is where cannabis can come in such a valuable and important way. In my work as an intuitive healer, I've often asked my clients to smoke cannabis during our sessions so that they can become more sensitive and more aware and receive more insights into their being. It stimulates the crown chakra, and it stimulates our connection to the source. And in many cases, it also can stimulate kundalini awakenings, which is also something I've personally experienced with cannabis. So I want to just wrap it up here and allow for a question if there is one. But I want to say that humanity has an ego imbalance, that as we heal ourselves, we heal the planet. And as we clear our pain, we clear the ego. The ego is made up of pain. And we're not alone in this task. The medicines are coming to us. The medicines are calling to us. The medicines themselves want to evolve human consciousness. And ayahuasca, I want to add one last thing, also does activate. Ayahuasca gives gifts. Ayahuasca is capable, I've experienced it and seen it, of taking the raw material of any gift that we may have and sharpening it. Taking coal and making it into a diamond. I've seen people who cannot sing, and many people have told me they weren't able to sing, and then after many ayahuasca ceremonies, suddenly they're amazing singers and they're recording albums successfully. And it's not them, it's this plant. This plant also, ayahuasca, is known for giving us our soul mission. She appoints us to a particular post. And she asks really only that we respect her deeply, and that we come to all of these medicines with love and with an understanding that they are intelligent, that they are emanations of the earth herself. The earth knows what she's doing, and she seeks to heal herself by healing us. Thank you.
We can do a couple questions. First one's over here.
Hey, so I'm in like the school of permaculture. We do a lot of like regenerative work, a lot of farming, gardening, these types of things. Are you familiar with Brock Dolman at all? He works with the Pioneers Institute. Literally uses the phrase restoring the ego. As we restore our ecosystems, as we restore our watersheds, as we reconnect our communities and ourselves with these plants and the earth, we are restoring the ego. We're giving the ego a new story to follow, perhaps a healthier program, consensus reality kind of drawing from the speaker before you. And I just wondered if you would speak to, do you think perhaps there's a feedback loop between ecological speaking and the problems we're having and then the ego problems that we're having? And as we clean and cleanse the trauma, are we more drawn then to have a cleaner environment for Earth?
Thank you for this question. I want to say a couple things. Yeah, thank you. So first of all, the right use of the ego, the right use of the will, is to submit to the will of the divine, of the creative benevolent force that guides all things. It's for the highest good of all beings. So yes, so because I could talk about this for hours, reality is a mirror. Everything we experience, everything I experience in my life, you're an aspect of me, I'm an aspect of you. We're having this conversation because of that. Yes. So everything that we see on the planet, the disharmony that we see, is a manifestation of consciousness. That is why we have to heal on the level of consciousness. That is why it does not matter what solutions we have until humanity releases the density of emotional pain. This is why it's so important we get free from suffering. It is a matter of releasing enough density and increasing the bandwidth for love.
Got a question out there? Come on, who's got one? Oh, way over there, oh my goodness.
Tom.
Come on, Tom, meet me halfway. We can do it. We can do it. You're a romantic love scene.
Tara, great talk. I was curious, you had brought up a lot of the holistic people are against cannabis, or they're not really. Is that because their shit doesn't work at all and cannabis does? Just, honestly, because that stuff is all nonsense. I'm curious, since cannabis is actually one of the oldest medicinal plants ever, is it like a jealousy thing?
I can't speak for why other people have resistance to such a beautiful medicine,
Sure.
but what I can say is that they probably haven't approached it in the right way. Medicine work, it's all about intention, and the plants are sentient, and there's a real consciousness and intelligence there, and they don't respond to us the same way if we don't come to them with love and respect and highest intention. I personally have experienced, with cannabis, I've led many cannabis ceremonies, facilitated many, and I've had amazing experiences, because you were in one. So I think it really depends a lot on the intention. I think a lot of people don't understand what cannabis is capable of, and I think also two quick factors. One is the way that it's handled and grown makes a difference. So if the plant is abused, if the plant is mistreated, if it's not respected, the way that it's handled, it comes to us having been mistreated, it's got lower energy in it, and then we have that experience. So the grower matters. And then second thing, nope, lost it.
It's almost like a cult, like a person could like cannabis and then they join one of these ridiculous things and suddenly they don't like it anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it's true, yes, even in the plant medicine world, even the people that are very serious, for example, about ayahuasca, often, one of my teachers is like, no, you can't touch cannabis, that's not a legit plant medicine. Tobacco, yeah, hafe, sure, yeah, okay. Everything, but not cannabis. No, Tohei, Datura, sure, no, not cannabis. What? Yes. I think one of the reasons also is that because cannabis is an amplifier, it amplifies the shadow aspects inside of ourselves. And many people may think that's the plant. May not recognize, this anxiety or this fear is within me, and this plant is just showing it to me. So that's a possibility. Also, though, it is very stimulating to the crown chakra, and I think many people do become ungrounded for that reason, and if they don't know how to work with it in a ritual container, or if they don't know how to ground themselves, I think they may not have the full benefit of the experience.
Great. Thank you very much, Charlie. Let's give it another round of applause.